Smoke crawls low over the dead at Dagorlad, clinging to broken spears and staring eyes, while a single man stumbles beneath a sky the colour of iron. Isildur runs, the ring hot against his chest, the river ahead whispering escape. On a distant ridge, elven eyes watch, cold and unreadable, as arrows are nocked not in his defence, but in a silent salute to an age ending. When the ring slips from his finger into the dark water, it is not the only thing that vanishes. If you enjoy these deep dives into alternate Middle-earth, tap like and subscribe so you do not miss the next journey. Tell me in the comments which realm you would stand for in this timeline, and where in the world you are watching from. The orcs do not find Isildur's body for hours. Dawn comes grudgingly over the gladdened fields, pale light catching on reeds bent and broken by flight and slaughter. The river murmurs on, innocent as crows gather in the chill air. When at last a band of prowling orcs drags the corpse from the shallows, there is no gold upon his hand, no shining token of the Dark Lord's fall, only a torn banner of Gondor, heavy with river water and blood. They curse and spit and hack at the body for sport, but their anger is unfocused, purposeless. Their masters are scattered. Barad-dûr is thrown down. The eye is dark. They do not know that the true prize lies only a few arm lengths away, resting in the silt, where a thin beam of morning light touches something small and circular and very patient. Far to the south, in the white city that is not yet white, another dawn breaks. Minas Anor wakes to bells that sound more like laments than celebrations. The banners of Elendil and his sons hang heavy from the towers, but the wind is weak and they stir only a little, like weary soldiers. In the great hall, beneath tapestries of Numenor's lost glory, Elrond half-elven stands very still. He has just heard the news. Isildur is dead. His sons are dead. The king who would not cast the ring into the fire has been cut down by nameless orcs in a marsh. The messenger, a Dúnedain captain with dust still on his cloak, finishes his report and waits. There is sweat on his brow despite the cold. Elrond says nothing for a long moment. He hears again the roar of Orodruin, the crack and thunder of its heart. He sees Isildur's face, lit by the furnace glow, the ring blazing on his finger. He remembers the words he spoke, the plea he made, and the refusal that answered him. Now that refusal lies face down in a riverbed, and the ring is missing. Gil-galad is gone. Elendil is gone. Isildur is gone. The last alliance has broken like a wave against black stone and receded, leaving only wreckage on the shore of history. The captain shifts, uncertain. Lord Elrond, he ventures. What message shall we bear to Lindon? To Imladris? Elrond looks past him, through the high windows to the east. The mountains on the horizon are veiled in morning haze, but he imagines he can see beyond them, to the ash plains of Gorgoroth, to the ruined gate of Mordor, to the empty socket where the eye once burned. A vast silence seems to press upon the world, not peace, but the pause after a scream. "We will send no message," Elrond says quietly. The captain blinks. "My lord, there is nothing to say that they do not already know," Elrond answers. "The tale of men has turned upon its own choice. Our part in it is ended." He does not raise his voice. He does not need to. The words are like a door closing. In the west, by the grey sea, another door waits. In Lindon, Círdan the shipwright stands upon the long quay of Mithlond, the grey havens, and watches the tide turn. The gulls wheel overhead, crying sharply in the cold wind. The sea is a dull mirror under a winter sky, but far out, where the air thickens with distance, the line of the world seems to bend, as if leaning towards something unseen. Behind him, the sound of hammers rings from the covered slips. Elven shipwrights move like dancers along half-built hulls, laying silver-grey planks that gleam faintly in the dim light. The smell of resin and salt and fresh-cut wood mingles in the air. Círdan's beard stirs in the wind. His eyes, older than the sun's rising, are fixed on the west. He felt it when Sauron fell. He felt it when the tower cracked and the dark power was cast down. The very water shuddered and the gulls fell silent for a heartbeat. He felt it also when the ring was not unmade. The world is changed, he thinks, but not mended. Footsteps approach across the smooth stone. News from the east? Círdan asks, before the messenger can speak. The elf bows. Isildur, son of Elendil, is slain, Lord. The ring is lost. There is a faint catch on the last word. Among the Eldar, that small thing of gold is spoken of only carefully, like a sickness that might awaken if named too boldly. Círdan closes his eyes, and for a moment the wind seems to rise around him, tugging at his cloak, pulling at his thoughts. Isildur is dead. The line of Elendil is broken at its first flowering. The ring is not destroyed. It has slipped from all hands and gone into the deep places of Middle-earth to wait. There is a choice here. He feels it like a fork in a river. We must speak with Elrond, Círdan says. He does not yet know that Elrond in Minas Anor has already made his own decision. In that high hall, after the captain departs, Elrond remains alone for some time. The noise of the city, the clatter of hooves and the calls of vendors and the distant hammering of rebuilding all seem muffled. He thinks of Eregion, burning. He thinks of Celebrimbor on his cross, his body pierced and defiled, the rings he forged turned against all that he loved. He thinks of Gil-galad burning in Sauron's hand. He thinks of the long, long struggle, from the first rising of the moon over Beleriand to this bitter dawn. Always the Eldar have stood in the forefront. Always they have spent their blood and their light to hold back the shadow for the sake of a world that is not truly theirs. And what has it come to? A man who would not let go. Elrond's hands curl slowly into fists. He remembers another choice, far back in the deeps of time, when he and his brother Elros stood before the Valar and were told that they must decide. Elf or man, immortal or mortal, starlight or the swift fire of men. Elros chose mortality. He chose Numenor and a brief, bright reign that ended in pride and ruin. Elrond chose the Eldar and the long defeat. Now, looking out over the city of men, he wonders if his choice has led only to this, to the elves spending their strength to give men a chance they do not take. The thought is not born of contempt, it is born of exhaustion. He turns away from the window. By the time he reaches the courtyard, the light has strengthened. The cold air smells of stone and wood smoke and the faint tang of the sea. His guard waits, a handful of Imladris elves, travel-worn and watchful. We ride for the north, Elrond tells them. One of them, Erestor, frowns. Will you not speak with the steward, my lord? With the captains of Gondor? Elrond's gaze moves to the white tree that is not yet dead, its bare branches etched against the sky. There is nothing more that I can say to them, he replies. Nor they to me. Their road lies before them, and they must walk it without our hand on their shoulder. He pauses, then adds, Gather all our people in Minas Anor. We depart this city today. We will not return." The words fall like stones into a still pond. Eristor opens his mouth, then closes it again. He bows as you command. As the sun climbs, a small company of elves rides out through the gates of Minas Anor. The men on the walls watch them go, some with curiosity, some with unease. They do not yet understand what they are seeing. They will. In the weeks that follow, word travels faster than any rider. The elves are leaving. At first, it is only a rumor. A captain of Gondor passing through the lands of Arda finds the houses of Linden's outlying folk standing empty, their gardens untended, their doors unbarred. A dwarf merchant from the Blue Mountains reports that the roads to the Grey Havens are thick with elven companies. Their carts piled high with chests and heirlooms, their faces turned westward. In Lorien, the Malorn leaves whisper of it, though no messenger has yet come. In Greenwood the Great, Thranduil hears from a wandering Sindarin hunter that the Havens are calling their children home. In Khazad-dûm, the dwarves laugh at the tale. "The elves are ever talking of the sea," says a broad-shouldered smith, his beard braided with silver wire. "They pine and they sing, but they never truly go. They are like men in a tavern bragging of voyages they will never take. But the laughter is uneasy, for in Linden the rumour is already a decision." Elrond arrives in Mithlond, beneath a sky riven with long, ragged clouds. Rain spits fitfully on the stone quays, and the sea is a restless sheet of grey. Círdan meets him at the foot of the pier, his cloak whipped by the wind. They clasp forearms in silence, and in that grip is the weight of ages. "You felt it," Círdan says at last. Elrond nods. "Isildur is dead. The ring is lost. The world has passed a turning, and we are not the ones who turned it." They walk together along the quay. The half-built ships loom above them, their ribs like the skeletons of great beasts. Elven workers pause in their tasks to watch their lords pass. "We have spoken often of this day," Círdan says, "in whispers, in council, in the quiet watches of the night, that there would come a time when our part in Middle-earth was played, and we must heed the call of the West." He glances at Elrond, his eyes searching. "You were always the one who held that day at a distance, for the sake of Imladris, for the sake of Gil-galad, for the sake of hope," Elrond answers. "And now?" Círdan asks. Elrond stops at the very edge of the quay. The water slaps against the stone below, dark and cold. Far out, a pod of dolphins breaks the surface briefly, their backs slick and black, then vanishes again. "Now I look east," Elrond says slowly, "and I see men rebuilding their kingdoms with hands that have refused the final burden. I see the shadow cast down, but not unmade. I see the ring somewhere in the deeps of the world, waiting for one more hand to close upon it. And I ask myself, is it still our task to stand between them and their doom?" The wind gusts, tugging at their cloaks. "For long ages," he continues, "we have fought a war that was never truly ours. We came into this land to heal the hurts of Morgoth, to bring beauty and order where he brought ruin. We loved these shores. We loved these forests and mountains. But the doom of the Noldor is fulfilled. The Silmarils are lost beyond recall. The great works are done, and the cost has been terrible." He thinks of Celebrian, his wife, who in another history will be wounded and wearied by the evils of Middle-earth and sail at last to seek healing in the West. Here, she is still unhurt. Here, that pain has not yet come. "Is it mercy," Elrond says softly, "to remain and to spend our last strength trying to save those who will not be saved from themselves? Or is it mercy to withdraw and let the world of men become what it must, without our shadow falling upon it? Círdan is silent for a while. "The straight road is open," he says at length. "The Valar do not summon us, but they do not forbid us. The sea longing grows in many hearts. Every year more eyes turn west." He looks at Elrond with a strange, almost sorrowful tenderness. "You have carried many burdens, Peredel. You have watched more endings than most. If you say that our watch is ended, many will heed you." Elrond's jaw tightens. "I say this," he answers. "We will not abandon those who seek us for counsel in this present hour. We will aid in the ordering of Arnor and Gondor insofar as they will hear us. We will see the last stones of Barada torn down and its pits filled. But we will not bind our fates any further to the kingdoms of men. When the work of this generation is done, we will go." He turns away from the sea, back toward the waiting ships. "Prepare them, Círdan, not for a trickle of departures, but for a tide." The decision spreads through Lindon like fire through dry grass. Some greet it with relief, their hearts long since turned west. Some greet it with grief, for they have loved these lands for millennia. Some argue quietly in halls lit by starlight. "Is this not cowardice?" asks Galdor of the Havens, pacing before a tall window. The rain has thickened, drawing silver streaks across the glass. To leave when the shadow is fallen, when men stand in need of guidance more than ever. Elrond stands with his hands behind his back, his face composed. "Is it cowardice," he replies, "to accept that our time is ended? To trust that the one who made this world has not bound its fate wholly to our strength?" Galdor's mouth tightens. "You speak of trust, but I hear weariness. You are tired, Elrond. We all are. But is that reason to forsake those who have fought beside us?" Elrond's eyes flash, just once. "Forsake?" he says. "We have buried kings of men, Galdor. We have watched their cities rise and fall. We have poured our law and our power into their wars. How many times must we bleed for them before it is not called forsaking to step away?" His voice softens. "I do not deny that this choice is born in part of weariness, but it is also born of wisdom. The world must pass into the hands of men. If we remain, we will not merely aid them, we will shape them. We will stand behind their thrones, whispering counsel, weighing their choices against our memories of ages they never knew. That is not their destiny, nor ours." Galdor looks away. "And what of those who will not go?" he asks quietly. "For there will be some. There are always some. The sylvan folk of Greenwood, the Galadhrim of Lorien, the scattered wanderers who have no ship and no wish for one." Elrond's gaze grows distant. "They must choose for themselves," he says. "We will not force any to sail. But we will no longer stand as a bulwark for all. We will not be the wall that men lean upon. If some of our kin remain, they will do so as they wish and for as long as they can endure." He does not yet know that in Lorien, a choice is already forming that will not align with his own. In the Golden Wood, beneath leaves that do not yet know sorrow, Galadriel stands with her hand resting on the smooth bark of a mallow and listens to its song. The trees of Lorien do not speak in words. They murmur in sense and in the slow, subtle shifting of light. They remember the first planting of their seed from the west, the touch of the lady's hand, the laughter of Nimrodel beside the falls. They remember the tramp of orc feet in the far shadows, the distant cries of war. Now there is a new note in their song, a question, a tremor. Celeborn approaches along the flet, his steps soft. They say Elrond will go, he says without preamble, that Lindorn will empty its halls, that the havens will be filled with ships. Galadriel's fingers move slowly over the bark, as if tracing an invisible pattern. The sea has called to him for long, she replies. He has turned his face from it for the sake of his duty. Perhaps he judges that duty fulfilled. Celeborn comes to stand beside her. His hair is silver as starlight, his eyes clear and grave. "And you?" he asks. "Do you judge the same?" Galadriel does not answer immediately. She has walked this land since before the sun first rose. She crossed the grinding ice with frost in her hair and fire in her heart, defying the doom of Mandos. She has seen kingdoms rise and fall, from Menegroth to Gondolin to Eregion. She has borne the weight of her own pride and the long, slow humbling of it. She has also borne Nenya, the ring of adamant, for many years now. Its power flows through her like a hidden river, preserving the beauty of Lorien, holding back time's decay. She knows that the rings are bound to the one, and that as long as it endures, their use is perilous. Yet when she looks upon her wood, upon the gold and green and silver of it, she feels a fierce, almost desperate love. "I do not know," she says at last. "My heart is divided. The West calls to me. I have kin there. Forgiveness, perhaps. Rest. But this land also calls, not with the voice of the Valar, but with the voices of those who have no other refuge. The Sylvan folk, the scattered exiles, the men who look to this wood and feel their hearts lifted, though they know not why." She turns to Celeborn. "If we go, who will remain to tend these wounds, to guard these borders, to keep some memory of the elder days in the world of men?" Celeborn studies her. "Is that our task still?" he asks gently. "Or is it only your unwillingness to release what you have made?" The question cuts close to the root. Galadriel's jaw tightens. "Perhaps it is both," she admits. "I have never claimed my heart to be pure of mingled motives. But hear this also, husband. If all the great among the Eldar depart, if only scattered, leaderless folk remain, then the world of men will not grow in wisdom more swiftly. It will grow in ignorance, in forgetfulness. The shadow may rise again, and there will be no one left who remembers how to fight it." Celeborn looks out over the forest. "The shadow may rise again, whether we stay or go," he says. "We have seen it. We have fought it. We have cast it down. Yet here we stand, speaking of its return, because a single man would not let go." There is no bitterness in his tone, only a tired clarity. "We cannot save them from every folly," he continues, "nor should we try. If we remain, we must do so not as their wardens, but as their neighbors, not as their hidden lords, but as fellow wayfarers." Galadriel smiles faintly. "You speak as if men would see us thus," she says. "As if they would not make of us legends and distant powers, whether we will it or no." Celeborn's mouth quirks. "They will," he agrees. "They always have. But our intent still matters, our posture toward them. If we stay to rule, we will warp their growth. If we stay to stand beside them, perhaps we may yet do some good without binding ourselves to their fate." Galadriel is silent for a long moment. "At last," she says, "then we will not sail with Elrond, not yet. Lorien will remain. We will be a haven for as long as we can. When the time comes that we can no longer hold this wood against the shadow, then we will go." She looks to the east, where the mountains rise like a dark wall. "Until then," she adds, "let the world of men learn to stand. Let them stumble. Let them rise again, We will watch. We will remember. We will be the mirror in which they may see what they have become. In Greenwood the Great, Thranduil, son of Orifer, hears the same rumors and makes a different choice still. He stands upon a high hill, his cloak snapping in the wind, and looks out over the endless sea of trees. The air here smells of pine and damp earth, of mushrooms and moss. Sunlight filters through the canopy in shifting shafts, painting the forest floor with gold. Thranduil's eyes are bright and hard. His father died on the Dagorlad, thrown away in a reckless charge against the Black Gate. Orifer would not heed Gilgalad's counsel. He would not march in ordered ranks. He led his sylvan host in a wild rush, and the orc arrows cut them down like wheat. Thranduil has never forgotten the sight. He has never forgotten, either, how few among the High Lords of the Eldar truly mourned Orifer. A Sindarin upstart, they thought, too proud for his place. Now, those same High Lords speak of leaving. Let them go, Thranduil says, his voice low. His steward, a dark-haired elf with keen eyes, shifts uneasily. If they depart, my king, he says, the burden of guarding the north will fall more heavily upon us. The orcs of the Misty Mountains are not all scattered. Dark things still stir in Dol Guldur's ruins. Without Lindon, without Imladris, without their scouts and their wisdom, we have our own wisdom, Thranduil cuts in sharply. Our own bows, our own ways of the forest. We have lived here since before Gilgalad ever set foot in these lands. We will endure. He looks up at the pale sky visible between the branches. Let the Noldor sail back to their shining west, he says. Let them take their high speech and their high griefs with them. We will remain. This is our home. We will not abandon it for any sea longing. In his heart, there is a trace of bitterness and of something else. A fierce, possessive love for these woods that no wave can wash away. Thus, the choices of the Eldar begin to diverge. In Lindon and at the Grey Havens, preparations quicken. Ships that would have taken decades to build now rise in years, under hands driven by a quiet urgency. Treasures are gathered from deep vaults, tapestries woven in Tyrian, blades forged in Gondolin, books written in the flowing script of Doriath. Songs are sung that have not been heard since before the sun. In Imladris, Elrond returns to a valley that has never seemed so temporary. The Bruinen runs swift and cold, its waters laughing over stones. The house itself is full of light and music, its halls lined with carvings and woven hangings. Yet to Elrond's eyes, it is already a memory. He walks its corridors at night, when the lamps burn low and the stars peer in through the high windows, and he imagines them empty. He sees dust gathering where feet once passed. He hears echoes where voices once sang. He has loved this place as few things in his long life. He raised it from nothing after the fall of Eregion, pouring his grief into its foundations. It has been a refuge for the weary, a storehouse of lore, a bulwark against the shadow. Now it will become a shell, a husk left behind on the shore when the tide goes out. He does not speak of this to his household at first. He moves quietly among them, listening, weighing. He hears some speak with longing of the west, of Valinor's light. He hears others speak with dread of leaving Middle-earth, of abandoning the graves of their kin, the trees they planted, the rivers they named. He hears Celebrian, his wife, singing softly to their young sons, Eladan and Elrohir. The twins fall asleep with their heads on her lap, their dark hair tangled, their faces peaceful. Elrond stands in the doorway and watches. Celebrian looks up and meets his gaze. In her eyes, he sees that she already knows. Later, when the children sleep, they stand together on a balcony overlooking the valley. The air is crisp. The stars are bright. "You have decided," she says. Elrond nods. "When the work of this age is done, when the last stones of Mordor are pulled down and the realms of men are set in order, we will go. Not only we, but most of our people. Lindon will empty. The havens will fill. The time of the Eldar in Middle-earth will end." Celebrian leans on the railing, her hair stirring in the breeze. "I was born beneath these stars," she says, "in Eregion. I remember the sound of the hammers in the forges, the laughter in the streets. I remember the day the smoke rose on the horizon, and the fear in my mother's eyes. I remember the road to Imladris and the comfort of your voice." She looks down into the shadowed gardens. "I have never seen Valinor," she continues. "I have never beheld the light of the trees. For me, the West is not a memory. It is a promise, distant, untasted. Elrond is very still." "Do you wish to stay?" he asks quietly. Celebrian shakes her head. "I do not know," she admits. "Part of me longs for the sea, though I have never heard its call as strongly as some. Part of me clings to this valley, to these stones, to the faces of those who will remain behind. But I know this, Elrond. Wherever you go, I will go. I chose you and the path that winds beside yours." She turns to him, her hand finding his. "And our children?" she asks, her voice softer. Elrond's throat tightens. "They will have the choice," he says, "as I had. As my brother had. When the time comes, they may choose the fate of men or of elves. If they choose mortality, they will remain. If they choose the Eldar, they will sail with us." He does not speak of Arwen. She's still only a child, her fate unwritten. In the south, in Minas Anor and Osgiliath, the world of men reshapes itself without fully understanding what is being taken from it. The Dunedain gather in council, the captains and stewards and lords of lesser houses. They speak of rebuilding, of borders, of the division of the realms between Arnor in the north and Gondor in the south. They speak of fortifying Mordor's gates, of guarding against any remnant of Sauron's servants. They send messengers to Lindon and Imladris, seeking counsel. The answers they receive are courteous, wise, and distant. In a great hall in Osgiliath, under a ceiling painted with stars, men sit at a long table. Maps are spread before them, ink still drying on new-drawn lines. At the head of the table, a tall man with dark hair shot with silver leans forward, his brow furrowed. He is Valandil, youngest son of Isildur, who in this history did not die at Imladris, but was instead hastened to his father's side after the war. With his elder brothers slain in the Gladden fields, the weight of kingship has fallen upon him sooner than expected. He listens as a herald reads Elrond's letter. "The Eldar have long stood beside the Adarn in war and in council," the herald recites, "and we will not wholly withdraw our friendship. Yet the time comes when the world must pass into your hands, and you must bear its burdens without leaning upon us. We will aid you in this present ordering, but in days to come, our people will depart these shores. Do not look to us to stand between you and the shadow again. That task is now yours." A murmur ripples around the table. Valandil's hand tightens on the arm of his chair. "They are abandoning us," says one lord, a hard-faced man from the southern fiefs. "After all we have suffered together, they turn their backs and sail away. They have fought beside us for longer than our line can remember, counters another, younger man with thoughtful eyes. They owe us nothing. Perhaps this is the way it must be. We cannot be children forever, running to our elder kin whenever we are afraid. Valandil says nothing for a moment. He is still young, by the measure of his people, but grief has carved lines at the corners of his mouth. My father trusted them, he says at last. He trusted Elrond. He trusted Círdan. He trusted Gil-galad. He believed that together we could stand against the shadow. He looks down at the map before him, at the ink lines marking the bounds of Arnor and Gondor, at the black smudge that denotes the ruin of Barad-dûr. But my father also chose to keep the ring, he continues. He chose against their counsel. He chose to bear power alone. It cost him his life. It has cost us their trust. He lifts his gaze. We will not beg them to stay, he says. If they must go, let them go with honor. We will build our realms as best we can. We will remember their friendship. We will not depend upon their return. His voice is steady, but in his heart, a cold fear coils. What if the shadow rises again? In Dagorlad's desolation, the answer sleeps. Years pass. The last rubble of Barad-dûr is pulled down and cast into pits. The slagged iron of its gates is buried beneath tons of rock. The foul pits where orcs were bred are filled and sealed. In Mordor, the wind still smells of ash and sulphur, but slowly, grudgingly, scrub begins to grow in sheltered pockets. Ravens nest in broken battlements. The land does not heal, but it scabs. In Gondor, white stone rises where black had stood. Minas Anor grows in beauty and strength. Osgiliath's domes gleam in the sun. The banner of the White Tree flies proudly. In Arnor, the northern Dúnedain raise watchtowers and plant their own White Tree in Anúminas by Lake Evendim. Their realm is broad and thinly peopled, but rich in promise. In Lindon, the halls grow quieter. One by one, the great among the Eldar take ship. Galdor of the Havens, Glorfindel of Gondolin reborn, his golden hair bright against the grey sea as he steps aboard. Lords and ladies whose names were sung in Valinor before the moon rose. Each departure is both a wound and a healing. Elrond watches many of them go. He stands beside Círdan on the quay, his cloak snapping in the wind, and feels a strange mingling of sorrow and relief as the white sails swell and the ships slip away toward the unseen west. Soon it will be our turn, Círdan says quietly. Elrond nods. Soon he agrees. He has delayed as long as he can, for the sake of Imladris, for the sake of the men who still come seeking counsel. But the tide is turning. The sea longing is a pressure in his chest now, a constant ache. In Lorien, time seems to move differently. The malon leaves do not fall as other leaves do. The grass stays green when winter grips the world beyond. The air is always filled with a soft gold light, as if the sun lingers here a little longer each day. Galadriel walks its paths and feels the strain of holding it so. Nenya is a weight on her hand. Its power flows outward, a steady, invisible stream shoring up the beauty of the wood, resisting the slow gnawing of time. Yet she knows that it is also bound, faintly but inexorably, to the one ring wherever it lies. Sometimes, in the stillness of the night, she feels a distant tug, a whisper, a presence not wholly asleep. She does not speak of this to her people. She strengthens the borders. She sends scouts to watch Dol Guldur's Black Hill. She opens her wood to those who flee from lesser shadows, men driven from their lands by raiders, wandering elves whose homes have emptied. Lorien becomes a lantern in a darkening world. In Greenwood, Thranduil's realm deepens its roots. His folk do not build great stone halls like men, nor lofty flets like the Galadrim. They dwell in caverns and in houses grown from the living wood, their lives woven into the forest's rhythms. They drive off bands of orcs that creep from the mountains. They slay spiders that grow too bold. They sing under the stars. Yet slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, a change creeps in. From the south, from the ruins of Dol Guldur, a cold breath seeps through the trees. Animals avoid certain glades. The birds fall silent along certain paths. A faint, sickly light lingers in the air in some hollows, as if the sun's rays are twisted. Thranduil's scouts report strange tracks, clawed feet that are not orc, not wolf, not any beast they know. He tightens his borders. He orders more patrols. He does not call for aid. In Imladris, the last of the great councils of the Third Age is held far earlier than in another history. Messengers from Arna and Gondor come, bearing questions. The line of Valandil has continued, but in the north, the realm is already beginning to fray at the edges. The Dunedain are few, their blood thinning as they intermarry with lesser men. In the south, Gondor grows mighty, but also proud. Its captains look more to their own glory than to the long view. Rumors have reached them of dark things stirring in the east, strange cults in the Eastlands, tribes of men who worship a nameless darkness, bands of orcs gathering in the Ifilduath. They seek Elrond's counsel one last time. They find him older, if such a word can be used for one who does not age as men do. His hair is still dark, but silver threads glint at his temples. His eyes are deep wells. They sit in the hall of fire, its great hearth crackling, and speak of the future. The shadow is not ended, says a Gondorian lord, his hand resting on the pommel of his sword. We have seen signs. We have heard whispers. If Sauron himself is not yet returned, then some other darkness rises in his place. We need your wisdom, Lord Elrond. We need your aid. Elrond's gaze moves from face to face. You have my wisdom, he says, such as it is. I will tell you this. Beware pride. Beware the desire for power for its own sake. Beware the voices that promise strength in exchange for small evils. That is how the shadow enters, not with armies at first, but with bargains. The men shift, some nodding, some frowning. And your aid, presses the Arnorian envoy. Will Imladris stand with us? If war comes again, Elrond's hands tighten on the arms of his chair. For a time, he says, for as long as we remain. But know this, sons of Elendil, we are leaving. Not today, not tomorrow, but soon, by your reckoning. The Eldar are departing these shores. You must not build your defenses upon the hope that we will stand in the breach forever. A silence falls. Then we are alone, says the Gondorian softly. You are not alone. Elrond answers. You have each other. You have the memories of what has been. You have the tales of our deeds. Learn from them. Do not repeat our follies. That is all the aid we can give you that will endure. He does not tell them of the ring in the riverbed. He does not tell them of the faint tug Galadriel feels in the night. He does not tell them that somewhere, in the dark places of the world, the shadow's seed is stirring again. He knows that they must face that knowledge themselves, if they are to grow. After the council, when the men have departed, Elrond stands alone on a terrace overlooking the valley. The sky is overcast. The Bruinen runs dark beneath the bare trees. A chill wind blows. Círdan joins him, his steps slow. It is time, the shipwright says. Elrond closes his eyes. Yes, he answers. It is time, the departure of Elrond. Half-Elven is not marked by trumpets. He does not wish it so. He leaves Imladris at dawn with a small company. His household, those of his people who have chosen to sail now rather than linger. His wife Celebrian, his sons Eladan and Elrohir, grown tall and grave. Arwen stands on the steps of the house, her dark hair unbound, her eyes shining with unshed tears. She will not go with them. I will remain a while longer, she has told her father. My heart is not yet turned to the sea. I would walk these lands a little more. I would see Lorien again. I would visit Greenwood. I would know the world that will be when you are gone. Elrond did not argue. He rides down the winding path, the sound of hooves muffled by the damp earth, and does not look back until he reaches the ford. There he turns in his saddle. Imladris rises behind him, its roofs and towers nestled among the trees, smoke curling from its chimneys. The first light of morning touches its highest windows. For a moment, memory overlays the sight. The banners of Gilgalad flying from those same towers, the laughter of friends long gone, the faces of those who have taken ship. Farewell, Elrond says softly, in the tongue of his youth. May you be a haven to those who find you, for as long as stone stands upon stone. Then he rides on. The journey to the Grey Havens is long, but uneventful. The land seems to hold its breath as they pass. In the Shire, which is not yet called so, small folk peer from their doors and windows, their eyes wide at the sight of the tall, fair riders. They do not yet know that this is the last time such a company will pass their way. At last, the sea comes into view. It is a grey day, the horizon a blur. The gulls cry harshly. The ships lie waiting, their white sails furled, their hulls creaking gently against the piers. Círdan stands at the foot of the gangplank, his beard whipped by the wind. "Are you ready?" he asks. Elrond looks back one last time, eastward. He thinks of Imladris, of Lorien's golden wood, of Greenwood's deep shadows, of the White City shining, of the mountains and rivers and plains of Middle-earth. He thinks of the ring, small and terrible, lying in the dark. "No," he says, "but I will go." He steps aboard, the ropes are cast off, the sails unfurl. The ship glides out into the harbour, then into the open sea. On the quay, a few elves remain, watching. Among them is Arwen, who has ridden hard to reach the havens in time for this farewell. Her hair whips about her face. She stands very still, her hands clenched at her sides. As the ship passes beyond the headland, Elrond stands at the stern and raises a hand. The wind catches his cloak. The spray stings his face. The line of the land begins to curve, to fall away. For a moment, he feels a pang so sharp it is almost physical. Then the world tilts. The straight road opens. The ship sails on. Not into the sunset, but into a light that grows and grows, until Middle-earth is a memory behind them, and the shores of Valinor lie ahead. With Elrond's passing, a chapter closes. In Middle-earth, the change is not immediate. The sun rises and sets as before. The seasons turn. Men plough and reap and marry and bury their dead. But slowly, the absence of the Elder's hand begins to be felt. In Arnor, there is no Imladris to send riders to warn of threats from the east. There is no Elrond to counsel moderation when petty kings quarrel. The realm fractures sooner. Arthedain, Cardolan, and Rudar break apart in rivalry. In Gondor, there is no quiet elven voice in the steward's ear, reminding him of the long view. The kings grow more proud, more obsessed with outward show and power. The building of great monuments and mighty fleets takes precedence over the tending of the land and the hearts of the people. In the north, The Witch King comes earlier. He does not call himself so at first. He is a shadow, a whisper, a tall figure in a black helm who appears at the courts of lesser men in Rudar and Angmar, offering counsel, offering aid, offering power. Without the Eldar's watchful eyes, without their lore of old evils, his rise goes largely unnoticed. By the time the Dunedain of Arthedain realize that a dark power has taken root in the north, it is already too late to uproot it easily. In Greenwood, the darkness in the south thickens. Thranduil's patrols report more and more creatures of shadow. Great spiders whose venom burns like ice. Wolves with eyes like coals. Twisted things that once were men. The trees themselves begin to sicken in certain glades, their leaves turning an unhealthy color, their bark cracking. "We should send word to Lorien," says the steward, his face grave. "Perhaps the Lady Galadriel will have some wisdom in this." Thranduil's jaw tightens. "We are not children to run to her skirts whenever a shadow passes," he snaps. "We will handle this." Pride stiffens his spine. His father's death at Dagorlad still rankles. He will not be seen as weak. So Greenwood endures alone as the shadow spreads. In Lorien, Galadriel feels the dark stirrings as a pressure at the borders of her realm. She strengthens her wards. She sends her people to stand at the eaves, their bows ready, their eyes keen. She does not yet feel the need to strike outward. "We will not go to war unless war comes to us," she tells Celeborn. "We will be a refuge, not a spearhead. The world of men must fight its own battles." Celeborn nods, but his gaze is troubled. "What of the ring?" he asks quietly. "Do you still feel it?" Galadriel's hand moves unconsciously to Nenya. "Yes," she says, distantly, faintly, like a heartbeat in the deep earth. It is not yet found, but it is not gone. They stand together on a high flet, looking east. "Do you regret not sailing with Elrond?" Celeborn asks. Galadriel is silent for a long time. "No," she says at last. "Not yet. There is still work to do here. There are still those who need us. Arwen is among them. She comes to Lorien after her father's departure, seeking solace. The golden wood welcomes her. The trees whisper to her. The air is soft and filled with the scent of flowers. Time seems to slow. She walks its paths with her grandmother, listening to tales of Valinor, of the two trees, of the rebellion of the Noldor, of the kinslaying at Alqualondë. She learns the history of her people more deeply than she ever did in Imladris. She also listens to the stories of the men who have taken refuge here, tales of lost lands, of wars between petty kings, of strange riders in black who pass in the night. "The world beyond these borders is changing," she says one evening as she and Galadriel stand beside the mirror. "The water is still. The stars are reflected in it." "It always is," Galadriel replies. "That is its nature. We have spent long ages trying to hold it still, to preserve some fragment of what was. Perhaps we have done both good and harm in that." She looks at Arwen, her gaze penetrating. "What do you see, child?" she asks. "When you look to the future, when you look beyond the sea, beyond these trees, beyond the lives of men who pass like shadows." Arwen hesitates. "I see paths," she says slowly. "One that leads west, to a shore I have never seen. One that leads east, into darkness. One that leads south, into lands I do not know. One that leads into the hearts of men." She thinks of the Dunedain she has met. Proud, weary, burdened. She thinks of their brief lives, their fierce loves, their swift deaths. "I do not yet know which I will take," she finishes. Galadriel nods. "You have time," she says. "More than they. less than me. Use it well. Time in Middle-earth is a tricky thing. Decades pass. For men, whole generations live and die. For elves, it is the turning of a page. In those decades, the absence of the Eldar's full strength allows certain fires to burn higher. In Arnor, the Witch King's realm of Angmar grows like a cancer. Without Elrond's guidance, without the quiet, steadying presence of Imladris as a political and spiritual centre, the northern Dunedain are more easily divided. Húdaur falls under the sway of Angmar. Cardolan is harried by both enemies and plague. Arthedain fights on, but its resources are stretched thin. The great battle that, in another history, would see Glorfindel face the Witch King upon the fields near Fornost, now unfolds without him. The Dunedain ride out, brave and desperate. They clash with Angmar's forces in a storm of steel and screaming horses. The Witch King himself rides at the head of his host, his black helm gleaming, his eyes burning with a pale fire. The men fight valiantly. They even push Angmar's forces back at first. But there is no elven host from Lindon to strike from the west. There is no Glorfindel to break the Witch King's spirit with a prophetic word. There is only the grinding, bloody struggle of men against a power older and more cunning than they know. At the battle's height, the King of Arthedain charges the Witch King, his sword raised. Their blades meet with a ringing clash. For a heartbeat, hope flares. Then the king's sword shatters. A black blade pierces his armor. He falls, his crown tumbling into the mud. The Dunedain's line wavers. Without the elven reinforcements that in another history would have arrived in time to turn the tide, the battle collapses into rout. Angmar's forces sweep over the field. The northern kingdom is broken. A few Dunedain escape, fleeing into the wild. They become rangers, scattered, hunted, their numbers dwindling. The Witch King stands upon a hill, looking down at the smoking ruins of Fornost, and laughs. His laughter is thin and cold, like metal scraping on stone. In Gondor, news of Arnor's fall comes like a blow. The steward, a grave man named Pelandur, hears the tidings in the Hall of Kings. The white pillars rise around him, the carved faces of his ancestors gazing down. He feels a surge of anger. "We should have done more," he says to his counselors. "We should have sent more aid, more men, more gold. We have been too concerned with our own glory." One of his lords, a man of Umbar, snorts softly. "Arnor was always a lesser realm," he says, "thinly peopled, poor. We have our own borders to guard. The Haradrim grow restless. Corsairs raid our coasts. We cannot bleed for every northern quarrel." Pelandur's eyes flash. "Those northern quarrels are the battles of our kin," he says sharply. "We are both of the line of Elendil. If we do not stand together, we will fall separately." Another lord leans forward. "With respect, my lord steward," he says, "we are not alone in this world. There are other powers, other allies. The elves have gone. The dwarves keep to their halls. But in the east there are men who whisper of a new strength rising, a lord who promises order. Perhaps we should—" Pelandur cuts him off with a gesture. "We will not make pacts with shadows," he says. "We have seen where that leads." Yet the suggestion does not vanish. It lingers in the corners of the hall, in the minds of lesser men, in the quiet conversations in taverns and barracks. Without the Eldar's moral gravity, some hearts drift more easily toward the dark. In Greenwood, the shadow in the south has taken a name. Dol Guldur is no longer a ruin. A dark tower rises once more upon its hill, its stones black and cold. A pall of cloud hangs perpetually above it, blotting out the sun. Strange lights flicker in its windows at night. Thranduil's scouts report that orcs and other foul creatures move in and out of its gates. They speak of a presence within, a will like a coiled serpent. Some of the men of the East call him the necromancer, says the steward, his face pale. They say he can speak with the dead, that he can bind spirits to his service. Thranduil's hand tightens on the arm of his throne. Spirits are not his to bind, he says, nor the dead to command. He plays with fires he does not understand. The steward hesitates. My king, he says carefully, should we not send to Lorien now, or to the Dwarves of Khazad-dûm? This is beyond the strength of our small realm. If this necromancer is what some fear, Thranduil stands. We will not run to others, he says, his voice hard. We will not be as the men of the South, looking always for some higher power to save them. These are our woods. We will defend them. He calls his captains. He strengthens his borders. He orders patrols to shoot any creature that comes from Dol Guldur. He does not yet grasp that the shadow within that tower is older than his realm, older than his line, older than the sun. In Lorien, Galadriel feels it. The presence in Dol Guldur is like a bruise on the world's skin. It throbs faintly. It is not yet as strong as the eye that once blazed from Barad-dûr, but it is growing. We should strike, says Celeborn, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. We should gather what strength remains to us and to our allies, and tear that tower down before it grows any stronger. Galadriel's eyes are shadowed. Whom will you call? She asks. Elrond is gone. Círdan is gone. Lindon is empty. The dwarves will not march in great numbers for a cause that is not theirs. The men of Gondor look to their own borders. The men of Arnor are broken. Thranduil is proud and will not easily heed us. She turns to the mirror. The water is dark tonight. We can strike, she says. We can wound. But can we kill? If we go to war now, we may spend the last of our strength and fail. Then there will be little left to stand against what comes after. Celeborn's jaw clenches. And if we do nothing, he demands, if we let this necromancer grow, if we sit in our golden wood, preserving its beauty while the world beyond burns. Galadriel's shoulders sag, just a little. Do you think I do not feel that? She asks, her voice low. Do you think I do not remember Alqualonde, Doriath, Menegroth, Gondolin, Eregion? I have seen more fair things burn than you can count, husband. I have seen the price of hasty wrath and of slow inaction. There is no path before us that is clean. She looks east. In another time, in another choice, we might have had the strength to strike now, she says. If the Eldar had not sailed, if Elrond was still here, if Lindon still held hosts ready. But they are gone. We chose to let this age pass into men's hands. We cannot now take that choice back because we do not like what they do with it. Celeborn is silent. At last, he says, so we wait. We watch, Galadriel corrects softly. We watch and we prepare. If the shadow comes to our borders, we will stand. If the ring is found, we will know. Until then, we will be what we chose to be, a refuge, not a ruling hand. In a small fishing village on the banks of the Anduin, a strange creature watches men from the shadows. His name was once Sméagol. He found the ring on a birthday many years after Isildur's body washed down the river. He killed for it. He took it into the dark. He forgot the sun. Now he crouches beneath the roots of a great tree, his pale eyes gleaming, his hands clutching something that glints faintly. Tricksy men, he hisses as he watches them haul in their nets. always making noises, always burning things, always spoiling the nice quiet. They does not know, precious. They does not know what we has. He strokes the ring with a bony finger. It saved us, he whispers. It keeps us. It talks to us. It loves us. We will never let it go. The ring does not answer in words. It answers in hunger. It has waited in the dark for years, its will dulled but not broken. It has seeped slowly into Sméagol's mind, twisting him, stretching his life beyond its natural span. It has watched the world through his eyes, learning. Now, as the shadow stirs again in Dol Guldur, as the Witch King tightens his grip on the north, as men begin to whisper of new powers, the ring feels a faint pull. It is not yet strong. It is not yet a command, but it is a direction. East. Sméagol feels it as an itch. We does not like the east, he mutters. Too many nasty things. Orcses, spiders, men with red eyes. We stays here. We fishes, we eats, we has our precious. Yet the itch remains. Over time, it will grow. In Gondor, a new king sits upon the throne. His name is Ernil. He is brave, bold, a captain of renown. Under his rule, Gondor's fleets range far. Its armies march in strength. The banners of the White Tree fly over many lands. Yet even he cannot ignore the whispers that reach him from the north and east. Angmar's power is not spent. The Witch King's riders have been seen along the borders of what was once Arnor. In the east, dark cults grow more brazen. In the south, Harad and Umbar stir. He calls a council. We cannot fight on all fronts, he says, his finger tracing the map. We must choose where to strike. If we move north, to aid the remnants of Arnor against Angmar, we leave our southern borders vulnerable. If we move south, we abandon the north to the Witch King. If we move east to confront these new shadows, we thin ourselves everywhere. One of his captains, a man with a scar down his cheek, speaks. In the past, we might have looked to the Elves, he says, to Imladris, to Lindon, to Lorien. They would have counseled us. They might have marched with us. Now they are gone or hidden. We are alone in this. Ernil nods grimly. Then we must think as they did, he says. We must look not only to the next battle, but to the next age. Where will the shadow strike hardest if left unchecked? Where will it do the most lasting harm? He looks at the map again. The north is already broken, he says slowly. We can send aid, but we cannot rebuild Arnor as it was. The south is dangerous, but we know its ways. The east is unknown. If a dark power rises there, it could swell until it breaks upon all our borders at once. He makes his choice. We will send a great host east, he declares. We will cross the plains. We will seek out this shadow and cut it down before it grows. It is a bold plan. It is also, perhaps, a mistake. For while Gondor's strength marches east, Angmar strikes north, and the Witch King's riders sweep down upon the remnants of the Dunedain. Without Gondor's full support, without elven aid, many of the northern line are slain. In the east, Gondor's host marches far, farther than any of its armies have gone before. They cross wide rivers and endless grasslands. They encounter strange peoples, some friendly, some hostile, some already under the sway of a dark lord whose name they do not speak. They win battles. They burn temples where black fires burn. They tear down idols, but they do not find the heart of the shadow. It is always one step ahead, retreating, reshaping, whispering in the ears of those Gondor leaves behind. The host returns, diminished, weary. They have won glory, but not victory. In Dol Guldur, the necromancer watches and smiles. He is not yet Sauron as he once was. His power was broken with the fall of Barad-dûr. His spirit was scattered. It has taken him long to gather himself, to bind his will back into a form that can act. The departure of the Eldar has made his work easier. There are fewer eyes to see him, fewer minds to recognize his hand, fewer hearts bound to the west who might resist his call. He sits in the highest chamber of his tower, his form a shifting darkness, and extends his senses. He feels the Witch King's triumph in the north, the despair of the Dúnedain. He feels Gondor's overreach in the east, its pride and its fear. He feels the ring, faint and far, moving slowly eastward, tugged by a will older and deeper than Sméagol's. He feels, also, the bright, stubborn lights of Lorien and Greenwood, holding against his influence. He does not yet strike at them. There is time. In Lorien, Galadriel knows that time is running out. The strain of holding Nenya's power against the rising shadow is growing. Her hands shake sometimes when she thinks no one is looking. Her nights are restless. Celeborn sees it. "You cannot bear this forever," he says one evening, as they sit beneath the golden boughs. "You cannot hold back the tide alone. The Eldar are gone. The world is changing. Perhaps it is time to let it go." Galadriel's eyes close briefly. "If I let it go," she says, "Lorien will fade. The trees will age. The borders will weaken. The men who find refuge here will find only an ordinary wood. The elves who remain will feel the weight of years settle upon them. The beauty we have preserved will pass." Celeborn takes her hand. "Beauty passes," he says gently. "It always has. We have tried to deny that, to fix it in place. Perhaps that is part of our fault." He looks at her with great tenderness. "You have done enough," he says. "More than enough. You have nothing to prove to anyone. Not to the Valar, not to the Noldor, not to yourself. When the time comes, we will sail. We will lay down these burdens. We will trust that the world will not end because we are not there to hold it together." Galadriel's fingers tighten on his. "In another history," she murmurs, "I might have seen the ring pass through my hands. I might have faced the choice whether to take it or to let it go. I might have stood upon a green hill and refused it, and in that refusal found my healing." She looks east, where Dol Guldur shadow stains the horizon. "Here, that choice will not come," she says. "The ring will not pass before me. My healing, if it comes, must come in another way." She opens her hand. "I am afraid," she admits. Celeborn smiles sadly. "So am I," he says. "That is all right." In Greenwood, Thranduil's fear takes a different shape. His people are dying, not in great battles, for he has avoided those, but in a slow, grinding attrition. Patrols do not return. Hunters vanish. The spiders grow bolder, their webs thicker. The trees in the south are twisted now, their branches like claws. The Great is no longer a fitting name. His folk begin to call it Mirkwood. Thranduil stands in his great hall, carved into the rock beneath the hill, and slams his fist down on the arm of his throne. "We cannot hold the whole forest," he says. "We must withdraw to the north. We will fortify our halls. We will let the south go for now." The steward bows his head. "As you command," he says. It feels like defeat. It is. The shadow in Dol Guldur swells, unopposed. In Gondor, the line of kings begins to wane. Eärnil dies. His son Eärnur is brave, perhaps too brave. When the Witch King rides to Minas Tirith's gates, taunting, Eärnur cannot bear the insult. He rides out to meet him despite the counsel of his steward, despite the memory of Arna's fall. He does not return. In another history, a white figure on a white horse, Glorfindel of Gondolin, would have stood upon the walls and spoken words that would echo down the ages, that the Witch King would not fall by the hand of man. Here there is no such prophecy. There is only the sickening silence as the days pass and no word comes. There is only the slow, reluctant acceptance that the king is gone. The line of Anarion fails. The stewards take up the rule. They do so with grim determination. They remember the friendship of the elves, the lessons of the past. They try to hold to honor, but the weight upon them is great. The shadow in the east grows bolder. The men of Harad and Khand and Rune march under new banners, bearing symbols that twist the eye. The Nazgul ride openly now, their black horses snorting steam. In Imladris, the halls stand mostly empty. A few elves remain, those who chose not to sail with Elrond. They keep the lamps lit. They tend the gardens. They welcome the occasional wanderer. Arwen returns there sometimes, between her journeys to Lorien and beyond. She walks the familiar corridors, her footsteps echoing. She sits in the Hall of Fire, now often cold. She reads the books her father left behind. She feels his absence like a missing limb. One night, as she stands on the terrace where he once stood, looking out over the valley, a figure steps from the shadows. It is a man, tall, cloaked, his face shadowed by a hood. His clothes are travel-worn, his boots dusty. A sword hangs at his side. "Lady," he says, his voice low and respectful, "forgive my intrusion. I did not know that any still dwelt here." Arwen turns. Her eyes meet his. In another history, this would be Aragorn's son of Arathorn, heir of Isildur, raised in Imladris by Elrond, unaware of his true name until he came of age. Here, he is Arathorn's son still, but his childhood was different. Without Elrond's house as a refuge, without the fostering of the Dunedain chieftains in Imladris, the line of Isildur has been more exposed, more hunted. The rangers of the north have been fewer, their leadership more precarious. This man's name is Arahael. He is the current chieftain of the scattered Dunedain, a descendant of Isildur through many generations. He has grown up in the wild, learning his lore from his father and from what few scrolls and tales survived Arna's fall. He knows of Imladris as a legend, a hidden valley where Elrond once dwelt. He did not know it was still inhabited. He looks at Arwen with a mixture of awe and wariness. "Am Arahael," he says, "son of Aravorn, son of Arathorn, of the line of Isildur. I seek knowledge. I seek any wisdom that remains here, that might aid us in the wars to come." Arwen studies him. He is not as tall as some of his forefathers were said to be, for the blood of Númenor has thinned. But there is a light in his eyes, a steadiness in his gaze. "You are welcome," she says. "This house was built as a refuge for the weary, a storehouse of lore. What we have, we will share." She leads him through the halls, showing him the library, the maps, the records of Elendel's line. She speaks of her father's counsel, of his warnings. They talk late into the night. Arahael speaks of the Witch King's encroachments, of Gondor's struggles, of the growing darkness in the east. Arwen listens, and her heart tightens. "The world is changing," she says softly. "The Eldar have left, or soon will. The Dunedain are few. The shadow rises. Yet here you stand, with a sword at your side and hope in your eyes." Arahael smiles faintly. "Hope is a stubborn weed," he says. "It grows in the cracks of ruined walls." He looks at her with a question he does not voice. In another history, Arwen's heart would turn toward Aragorn, and through that love, she would bind her fate to the world of men, choosing mortality, choosing to stand beside him in the last battle against Sauron. Here, there is no single king of Gondor and Arnor to unite the realms. There is no great prophecy of Isildur's heir reclaiming the throne. There is only a weary chieftain of scattered rangers and an elven lady whose people are fading. Yet something stirs between them nonetheless. They walk in the gardens. They speak of small things, of flowers and stars, of songs and stories. They speak of large things, of doom and destiny, of the weight of choices. "Why do you stay?" Arahael asks her one night as they stand beneath the beech trees. "Your people have the West. You could sail, find peace, find an end to this long struggle. Why remain in a world that grows darker?" Arwen looks up at the stars. "Because it is my world," she says. "I was born here. I have walked these lands all my life. I have loved their rivers and their trees and their people. I do not know Valinor. I know this. I cannot yet turn my back on it." She glances at him. "And you?" she asks. "Why do you fight on when your people are so few, when your chances seem so small?" Arahael's jaw tightens. "Because if we do not, who will?" he says simply. "Because my father did, and his father before him. Because there are children in the villages who sleep more easily, not knowing what rides in the dark. Because even if we cannot win, we can make it harder for the shadow. We can buy time." He shrugs. "Perhaps that is foolish," he says. "But it is the foolishness I was raised to." Arwen feels something in her heart shift. In Dol Guldur, the necromancer feels something too. The ring is moving. Smeagol has left the river. The itch grew too strong. The east called too loudly. He crept away from his cave, from his pool, from his fish, muttering and cursing, but moving nonetheless. He has crossed hills and marshes, skulked through forests hidden from the sun. He has followed a pull he does not understand. Now he creeps through the fringes of Mirkwood, his pale eyes darting, his fingers clutching the ring. The shadow in Dol Guldur reaches out. It does not yet know exactly where the ring is. It cannot see it clearly, but it feels its proximity, like a scent on the wind. It sends out servants, spiders, wolves, orcs, dark birds. The forest stirs uneasily. Thranduil's patrols clash with these creatures more and more often. They do not know that they are fighting not only to protect their realm, but to prevent the ring from falling into Sauron's hand once more. In Lorien, Galadriel stands beside her mirror on a night when the stars are hidden behind clouds. The water is dark. She breathes slowly, her hand resting on Nenya. "Show me," she whispers. "Show me what stirs in the shadows. Show me the ring." The surface of the water trembles. Images flicker. A pale hand clutching something that glints. A forest of dark trunks, webs glistening. A tower of black stone, its windows like eyes. A great, lidless eye, wreathed in flame, opening slowly. Galadriel gasps and pulls back. The vision fades. She clutches the edge of the basin, her knuckles white. "It is not over," she says. Celeborn steps forward, his hand on her shoulder. "What do you see?" he asks. She looks at him, her eyes wide. "The ring is moving," she says. "It draws near to Dol Guldur. If Sauron regains it, all that we have done, all that we have sacrificed, will be for nothing. The world will fall into a darkness deeper than any we have known." Her voice trembles. "We must act," she says. "We can no longer sit within our borders. We must strike. We must find the ring before he does." Celeborn's jaw tightens. "With what army?" he asks. "With what allies?" The Eldar have left. The Dunedain are scattered. Gondor is hard-pressed. Thranduil is embattled. We are not what we once were. Galadriel's eyes blaze. "Then we go ourselves," she says. "You and I, and those who will follow. We do not need a host to find a creature like Sméagol. We need stealth. We need patience. We need the will to risk all." She looks back at the mirror. "In another tale," she murmurs, "the ring would come to us in the hand of a halfling. We would be offered its power and refuse it. That path is closed to us now. We must find another." Celeborn studies her. "You would leave Lorien?" he asks. "You would leave it unguarded?" Galadriel's shoulders slump. "I would leave it in the hands of our people," she says. "In yours, for a time. Nenya's power will hold for a while, even if I am far. But if I do nothing, if I sit here and watch the ring roll into Sauron's hand, then all this beauty will be ashes soon enough." She straightens. "I will go," she says. "I will walk the dark places again. I will seek the ring. If I find it, I will not take it. I swear it. I will see it destroyed, if any fire yet burns hot enough to unmake it." Celeborn's eyes search hers. "Do you trust yourself?" he asks softly. Galadriel's gaze does not waver. "No," she says. "That is why I must go. Because I know my own weakness. Because I know how easily I might be tempted. Because I must face that temptation, or it will find me here, unprepared." He closes his eyes briefly. "Then I will not forbid you," he says. "Though my heart fears, go with my blessing and with all the skill we have honed in long wars." He opens his eyes, and there is a fierce light in them. "And you will not go alone," he adds. "I will send with you those of our people who are most skilled in woodcraft and stealth. We will speak with Thranduil. We will speak with the Dunedain. We will weave what alliances we can. This is no longer a war of realms. It is a hunt." In Imladris, Arwen feels a tremor in the air. She cannot see the mirror's vision, but some echo of Galadriel's resolve reaches her. She stands on the terrace, looking east, and feels the weight of choice settle upon her shoulders. Arahael finds her there. "You are troubled," he says. She nods. "My grandmother moves," she says. "I can feel it. She goes to seek something that should have been destroyed long ago. If she fails, the world will fall into shadow. If she succeeds, the world will be changed." Arahael is silent for a moment. "What will you do?" he asks. Arwen looks at him. "I do not know," she says. "Part of me wishes to go with her, to stand beside her in this last struggle. Part of me wishes to remain here, to tend what little light is left in these halls. Part of me..." She hesitates. "Part of me wishes to stand beside you," she says softly, "to walk the paths you walk. To share in the fate of men." Arahael's breath catches. "That is a heavy choice," he says. "Heavier than any I bear. I cannot ask it of you." Arwen smiles faintly. "You do not," she says. "My heart does." They stand in silence, the wind stirring their hair. At last, Arwen speaks. "I will go to Lorien," she says. "I will speak with my grandmother. I will hear her counsel. Then I will choose." Arahael nods. "I will go north," he says. "The Witch King presses hard upon our borders. My people need me. But if you ever have need of us, send word. The Dunedain will answer if we can." Their eyes meet. In that gaze, a thread is woven that will bind their fates, whatever choices they make. In Dol Guldur, the necromancer feels the net tightening. He smiles, a thin, cruel curve. "Come then," he whispers into the dark. "Come, Lady of the Golden Wood. Come, granddaughter of Finarfin. Bring your light into my shadow. Let us see which endures." The ring in Sméagol's hand pulses faintly. It is close now, close to the tower, close to the eye that seeks it, close to the last chance Middle-earth has to unmake it. Galadriel leaves Lorien at dawn, cloaked in grey. A small company goes with her, silent, grim elves, their bows unstrung for now, their knives hidden. They move like shadows among the trees. At the border, she pauses. She lays her hand upon the bark of a malon. "Forgive me," she whispers. "I leave you in the care of those who love you. I go to face an old sin." Celeborn stands beside her. "Return," he says simply. She nods. "I will try," she answers. Then she steps beyond the golden light into the dimness of the world beyond. As she moves through the eaves of Mirkwood, the forest seems to hold its breath. Smeagol smells her before he sees her. He crouches in a tangle of roots, his nostrils flaring. "Elvesies," he hisses. "Nasty, bright, tricksy Elvesies. They comes, precious. They comes for us. They wants it. They all wants it." His fingers tighten on the ring. The ring is silent. It does not fear Galadriel as it once might have. It knows her heart better now. It knows that even in refusing it, she might still be its servant if she seeks to use its destruction as a crown for her own humility. Galadriel moves like a ghost among the trees. Her senses are stretched taut. She feels the presence in Dol Guldur like a pressure at the back of her skull. She feels the ring like a faint, sharp note in the forest's song. She crouches beside a stream, her hand hovering over the water. "Here," she murmurs. It passed this way. Her companions fan out. They find traces. A small footprint, oddly shaped in the mud. A fishbone gnawed clean. A strand of hair thin and pale. They follow. Days pass. The hunt is a dance of shadow and light, of pursuit and evasion. Smeagol is cunning. He knows how to hide, how to double back, how to confuse a trail. The ring aids him, clouding minds, bending light. Yet Galadriel is older than he is. She has hunted greater prey. She draws closer. One night, as the moon hides behind clouds, she stands in a small clearing, her eyes closed. "Smeagol," she says softly. The name is like a stone dropped into a still pool. In the darkness, something flinches. "Smeagol," she repeats. "I know your name. I know your story. I know the weight you bear. Come out. I will not harm you." A hiss comes from the undergrowth. "Lies," whispers a voice. "Elveses always lies. They wants it. They wants our precious." Galadriel opens her eyes. "I have borne a ring," she says. "Not that one, but another. I know its weight. I know its whisper. I know how it twists love into possession. I do not want your ring, Smeagol. I want to free you from it." Silence. Then, slowly, a pale shape emerges from the shadows. Smeagol is thin, his skin stretched over bone. His eyes are huge and pale, reflecting the faint light. His hair clings in wisps to his skull. He cradles the ring in his hands, his body curled protectively around it. "Free us," he says, his voice a croak. "Free us from our precious? We does not want to be free. We loves it. It loves us. It talks to us. It keeps us. Without it, we is nothing. Nothing." Galadriel's heart aches. "You are more than it has made you," she says. "You were once a child, with a family, with a name. You had a birthday. You laughed. You loved. The ring has taken that from you. Let it go. Let me take it, not to keep, but to destroy." Smeagol's fingers clutch the ring tighter. "Destroy," he whispers, aghast. "No, no, no, no. Wicked, tricksy Elveses. They wants to hurt it. They wants to kill our precious. We will not let them. We will bite them. We will scratch them. We will..." He lunges. He is fast, but Galadriel is faster. She does not draw a blade. She does not strike. She raises her hand. Light blooms. It is not the harsh, burning light of a noon sun. It is a soft, pure radiance, like starlight made tangible. It pours from her palm, filling the clearing, washing over Smeagol. He screams. The ring flares. For a moment, Galadriel sees him as he was, a small, dark-haired, hobbit-like creature, laughing by a river, his hands clean, his eyes bright. Then the light shifts, and she sees what the ring has made of him, a twisted, hunched thing, his soul wrapped around a circle of gold. Tears burn in her eyes. "Smeagol," she says, her voice breaking. "Please." He writhes. The ring pulses. In Dol Guldur, the necromancer feels the struggle. He reaches out. A shadow falls across the clearing. The light in Galadriel's hand flickers. She feels a weight pressing down, a cold hand closing around her heart. "Galadriel," whispers a voice in her mind. "Lady of Light, you come at last. You bring your pride, your pity, your long defeat. Lay down your burden. Give me the ring. I will end this struggle. I will make a world where nothing fades, where beauty does not pass, where you need never leave your golden wood." The vision is intoxicating. She sees Lorien, not as it is, but as it might be, eternal, unchanging, its trees forever golden, its people forever young. She sees herself, radiant, a queen more terrible and beautiful than the dawn. All the temptation she once imagined in another history, when she looked upon the ring in Frodo's hand, now crashes over her in reality. Her fingers tremble. Smeagol's hand stretches toward her, the ring gleaming. "Take it," whispers the shadow. "You came for it. Take it. Save them. Save yourself." For a heartbeat, the world hangs on a knife's edge. Galadriel closes her eyes. She sees Alqualonde, the blood on the white ships. She sees Feanor's face, twisted with zeal. She sees the doom of Mandos. She sees the long, bitter road. She sees Elrond's ships sailing west, leaving her behind. She sees Lorien's golden leaves already beginning to pale. She sees herself, in all her pride and all her regret. "I have desired this," she whispers, "for so long. To make something that endures, to hold back the tide, to be not only a healer of ruins, but a maker of wonders." Her hand reaches out, Smeagol's eyes gleam. The shadow leans in, then she laughs. It is a small, cracked sound, half sob, half mirth. "No," she says. "No, I am tired, but not so tired that I will bind the world to my weariness. I will not make of my longing a chain for all. I will diminish. I will go into the west. I will remain Galadriel, not a shadow of the dark." She opens her hand. The light flares. The shadow recoils with a hiss. Smeagol screams, clutching the ring. Galadriel steps forward. Her hand closes, not on the gold, but on his. "Smeagol," she says, pouring all her will, all her pity, all her strength into his name. "Let it go." For a moment, his eyes clear. He sees her, not as a terrible elf lady, but as a woman with tears on her face, holding his hand. He sees himself reflected in her gaze, small, broken, but still capable of a choice. His fingers loosen. The ring slips. It falls slow as a leaf through the air. Time stretches. In Dol Guldur, the necromancer screams. The ring hits the ground. The earth opens. Fire roars up, not from any natural source, but from the deep places of the world where the song of its making still echoes. The ground splits, a narrow fissure that glows with a fierce white heat. The ring teeters on the edge. Smeagol, with a strangled cry, dives after it. Galadriel reaches, but too late. He vanishes into the light. There is a flash, a sound like a bell tolling, not in the air, but in the bones of the world. The fissure snaps shut. Silence. Galadriel staggers back. Her breath ragged, her hand is empty. Nenya burns on her finger, then cools. Far away in Dol Guldur, the necromancer convulses. The link he has sought to reforge is severed. The great engine of his will, the ring that held so much of his native power, is gone. Not lost, not hidden, but unmade. His tower shudders, stones crack, windows explode outward. The black clouds above it churn. He screams, a sound of rage and disbelief. In Lorien, the Malorn leaves tremble. In Greenwood, the spiders fall from their webs, twitching. In Gondor, the stewards wake from uneasy dreams, their hearts pounding. In the ruins of Arda, the Witch King feels a sudden emptiness where a dark promise once lay. "What?" he begins. His steed rears, screaming. In the grey havens, Círdan, standing on a quiet quay, feels the sea heave. In Valinor, on the shores of Eldamar, Elrond lifts his head. He feels something break and something heal. In that moment, the world shifts. The ring is gone. Sauron's last, best hope of full restoration is snatched away, not by the counsel of Isildur, not by the journey of a hobbit, but by the pity of an elf for a broken creature, and by that creature's last, flickering spark of choice. The shadow does not vanish. Dol Guldur still stands, though cracked. The necromancer still exists, though diminished. The Nazgûl still ride. The wounds of the world do not close overnight, but the great wheel has turned. In the clearing, Galadriel sinks to her knees. Her companions rush to her side. "Lady," one says, his voice shaking. "Are you?" She raises a hand. "I am," she says, and for the first time in long ages the words feel like enough. She looks at the ground where the fissure closed. "Smeagol," she whispers. She weeps for him. In Lorien, the light begins, slowly, to change. Nenya's power fades. The Malin leaves will fall in time. The grass will brown in winter. The borders will be less impenetrable. The wood will become a place in the world, not apart from it. Galadriel returns, her steps slower, her shoulders lighter. Celeborn meets her at the border. "You did it," he says. She shakes her head. "He did," she answers. In the end, he let it go. I only held his hand. Celeborn smiles faintly. "That is not a small thing," he says. She looks up at the trees. "It is time," she says. "We have done what we can. The ring is unmade. Sauron is broken. The world will not be free of shadow, but it will not be bound by that one will again. Our work here is ended." She turns to him. "Let us go home," she says. He nods. They send word to the havens. In Imladris, Arwen feels the change. She stands on the terrace, the wind in her hair, and feels a weight lift that she did not know she carried. Arahael comes to her side. "What is it?" he asks. She smiles, tears on her cheeks. "The ring is gone," she says. "The great shadow is broken. My grandmother has done what Isildur would not. The world has been given a chance." Arahael's eyes widen. "Then we are free," he says. "Free of that doom?" Arwen's smile fades a little. "Not entirely," she says. "There are still other shadows. The Witch King still rides. Men's hearts are still weak. The Eldar are still leaving. The world is still wounded. But yes, one great chain has been broken. The rest is ours to forge or to shatter." She looks at him. "My choice is clearer now," she says. He swallows. "And?" he asks. She takes his hand. "I will stay," she says. "I will not sail with my grandmother. I will not seek the West. I will bind my fate to this world, to its brief lives and its long sorrows. I will walk beside men, not above them." He stares at her. "You would give up immortality," he whispers. She laughs softly. "I do not give it up," she says. "I change its shape. I trade the endless for the finite, the distant for the near. I choose to love something that will end, knowing that it will hurt. That is not loss. That is fullness." She squeezes his hand. "If you will have me," she adds. He cannot speak for a moment. Then he nods, tears in his eyes. "I will," he says. They stand together, looking east, where the dawn is beginning to pale the sky. In Gondor, the news of the ring's unmaking comes not as a clear proclamation, but as a series of strange coincidences. The air over Mordor seems a little clearer. The Nazgul's cries are a little less piercing. The fear that once gripped hearts at the thought of the Dark Lord seems to loosen, just a little. The stewards feel it. They do not know exactly what has happened. They do not know of Smeagol's choice, of Galadriel's light. They only know that something has shifted. Some among them take this as license to grow lax. Others take it as a sign that their efforts are not in vain. In Arnor's ruins, the Dunedain fight on. The Witch King is weaker than he might have been, without the ring's full backing. His hold on his own spirit is frayed. His power is still terrible, but less absolute. He presses Gondor. He harasses the north, but he does not sweep all before him. In time, in a battle near the ruins of Amon-Sul, a young ranger, not of Isildur's line but of his people, thrusts a spear into the Witch King's steed. The Nazgul falls. His body is not slain, for he is bound to his ring, but his legend is tarnished. Not by the hand of man, Glorfindel once prophesied. Here, there is no such clear doom. Here, the Witch King's end will come in a muddled human way, through many small wounds, through the erosion of fear. In Lorien, Galadriel and Celeborn take ship. Their departure is quieter than Elrond's. The Malin leaves fall gently as they walk to the river. The air is cool. The sky is clear. Their people gather to see them off. Some will sail later, some will remain until the end of their days. Some will fade. Galadriel looks back once at the golden wood. It is already less golden. She smiles. "Good," she says softly. "Be what you are, not what I held you to." She steps aboard. The ship glides away. In the grey havens, Círdan watches them go. His work is nearly done. He has built ships for ages. He has seen more farewells than any other in Middle-earth. He has wept and smiled and stood upon this quay as the world changed around him. Now there are few left to sail. He feels no bitterness. This was always the way of things. The ship bearing Galadriel and Celeborn and their companions passes beyond the headland into the open sea, then onto the straight road. The light grows. Galadriel stands at the prow, her hair streaming behind her. She feels the weight of ages fall from her shoulders. She feels, too, the weight of the choice she made in the forest, the choice to let the ring go, to let Sméagol fall. She will carry that always. In Valinor, on the white shores, Elrond stands. He watches as the ship approaches, his heart full. They meet upon the sand. No words are needed at first. They embrace, these two who have borne so much, who have made such different choices, and yet have arrived at the same shore. At last, Galadriel pulls back. "The ring is gone," she says. Elrond nods. "I felt it," he answers. The world shuddered. The sea sang. The burden we could not lift at Orodruin was lifted elsewhere, by other hands. He looks out over the water. "Men will never know how close they came," he says. "How much hung on the hand of a creature they would have despised." Galadriel smiles sadly. "Perhaps that is for the best," she says. "They have their own tales. They do not need ours woven into them. We chose long ago to step back. We did not succeed entirely, but we did enough." They stand together, watching the waves. In Middle-earth, the ages turn. Without the Eldar's full presence, men stumble more. They fall into darkness more often. Their kingdoms rise and fall in more chaotic patterns. There is no great reunited kingdom under a single king of both Gondor and Arda. There are instead many smaller realms, some just, some cruel, some forgotten. Yet in the cracks of those ruins, other lights grow. The Dunedain, though diminished, keep their watch. The hobbits of the Shire, left largely to their own devices, develop their quiet courage. The dwarves delve, sometimes too greedily, sometimes with wisdom. The Ents slumber and wake in their own time. Arwen and Arahael live a mortal life. They marry in a small clearing near Imladris, beneath beech trees whose leaves turn gold in autumn. A few elves attend, their faces grave and gentle. A few Dunedains stand, their hands on their hearts. They have children. Those children are not as long-lived as Arwen's elven kin, nor as short-lived as ordinary men. They span a bridge between worlds. They do not become kings of great realms. They become healers, rangers, lore keepers. They walk the wilds, tending small fires. When Arwen's time comes, she does not go to Lothlorien. It is no longer the golden wood of her youth. It has faded. Its trees are old. Its people are few. She goes instead to a small hill overlooking the Bruinen, near the ruins of Imladris. The house is mostly fallen now. Ivy crawls over its stones. The roof has caved in, but the air still holds an echo of music. She lies down beneath a young birch tree, her children and grandchildren around her. She looks up at the sky. The stars are bright. "I do not regret it," she says softly. "Not any of it." She closes her eyes. In Valinor, Elrond pauses in his walking. He feels something, a thread in his heart tugged gently. He closes his eyes and sees, for a moment, his daughter's face, lined with age, peaceful. He smiles, and a tear slips down his cheek. "She chose well," Galadriel says beside him. He nods. "So did you," he answers. They walk on. Middle-earth endures. It is not the bright, ordered world the Eldar once dreamed of. It is messier, more fragile, more prone to darkness. Without the elves' constant hand, men's follies burn hotter, their cruelties cut deeper, but their kindnesses shine brighter too. There are no more rings of power. There are no more great alliances between immortal and mortal. There are only people, of many kinds, making choices in the dark with what light they have. In a ruined tower somewhere in the east, a child lights a candle against the night. In a village in the south, an old woman tells a story of tall, fair folk who once walked the world, and of a small, twisted creature who let go of a golden ring. In a forest where the trees have grown tall over old scars, a fox pauses, sniffing the air, then trots on. On the shore of a grey sea, in a land where no ship now comes or goes, the wind moves over empty quays, whispering of sails and songs. The last light of the sun sinks beneath the horizon. For a moment, the world is held between day and night, between what was and what will be. Then the first star appears, alone and bright over the silent, abandoned havens.